Good afternoon, people. This is Dallas again, checking in for EdCamp 3.0, and I'm going to be initiating the session for bring your own device into classes and the best practices for that bring your own device. With me today, I also will have Tammy. I'll start with a brief introduction of myself, and then I'll have Tammy introduce herself, and we'll get to chatting, the two of us. So my name is Dallas. I teach in New Westminster, British Columbia, and live in Vancouver. But I teach at an alternate school, so it's grades 10 through grades 12, with a population that is predominantly on low income and many other struggles in life. So it's always an entertaining day and challenging day, but never dull. And Tammy, what can I tell, or you could tell us about yourself?
I'm Tammy. I teach in Huntsville, Alabama at a K-8 school. I teach sixth grade American history, and we are going to try BYOD school-wide this year.
That is exciting yet daunting all at the same time to me. Are you going to have any one person that's in charge of kind of rolling it out to the whole school, or is it kind of free for all?
Well, one teacher and myself has gone through training, so we'll probably um, head up any of the questions and organizations. It was initially meant to be just the two of us
Yeah.
uh, doing a pilot program, but the principal feels like he wants the entire school to do it this year, so we'll see
That
how it goes.
it's a scary process, and I wish you the best of luck taking care of a whole school, knowing how many variety of devices there are out there. So you said you were going to do a pilot program with yourself in another class, and grade six histories, was it?
Yes, I'm grade six history, and
Okay.
the other classroom is a seventh and eighth grade classroom.
Okay. And have you used it in your classroom, done a BYOD before in your
Yes,
classroom?
yes, a couple of years ago I did.
And what do you use with the BYOD? How do you roll that out in your classroom? What does it look like?
Well, because of the variety of devices that are going to come in, my focus is going to be to stay away from apps as much as possible and do more web-based things.
Yeah. Okay. And do you have any ideas with web-based things or like any particular web-based programs that are available on all, or do you just think you're going to roll it out there to general internet use, or are you still in that testing and trial era?
Well, this past year, the second semester, I have access to 13 iPads on my grade level that we share among the sixth grade teachers, and so I used them this past year and tried out things like Today's Meet as a back channel.
Yeah.
Um, of course, the Socrative app, I think that you can get on multiple types of devices. We
Yeah, you
use
can.
Socrative, and we used the Linoit, the digital bulletin board, a lot this year.
Oh,
So
I
I'll
haven't
start
heard of
with
that one.
those three. Oh, it's very cool.
It's Socrative, or I'm quite familiar with, and I use that with my class and students as well. Because with BYOD, you never know what kind of device you are getting in,
Right.
and Socrative is one of those ones that you can use with the PC, the Mac, the iPhone, the Android, the BlackBerry. It kind of covers all bases. They don't all have full function, but it's pretty well there for everyone to be able to use and access. So
I love that. I love on that app. I love the because I at one time a few years ago I had the student response systems by e-instruction, and that format was so uh, it was so user friendly. And then we went to the smartboard student response systems,
yeah,
and it was not so much user friendly. So I'm really enjoying the student response capabilities of that.
well, and not to talk too much about it as well, because but it falls into the BYOD. The fact that you get instantaneous response with it, as
Yes.
it's with the students, you get the live feed. You can automatically see and do a quick poll of who understands and who doesn't, or do you want to move on? Do we need to repeat as an instructor, which kind of gives us a lot more information. Because I know for myself personally, what I'd use it Socrative for with the BYOD is polling my students I often get blank stares regardless if they understand or don't understand because they're a little bit shyer and don't want to seem like they're not as intelligent or that they don't have as many good ideas as their peers. So I always do a quick poll to kind of see, do I get it? Do you get it? Can I move on? Or, okay, how far back do I need to go? What do I need to repeat? So I kind of like that idea with it, that it's that instantaneous. I get to adapt and I change my lesson right on the spot, and I don't have to do kind of like a. Lots of teachers will do an exit slip sort of to see where they are in understanding, so I don't have to wait to the next day. I can deal with it right on the spot, which is one of the things that I like.
Yes.
Um, so we've talked a lot about soccer. Do you use BYOD for anything else in class, or do you intend to this year?
I I'm going I'm going to try some different things once I see what types of devices we have out this when we get back to class.
Yeah. Okay. Is there any particular device that you're familiar with, or that you've experienced with your students bringing in more so than any other?
A couple of years ago, the students that brought the devices in were more cell phone based, so they weren't the smartphones. So,
Yeah.
it was I used a couple of years ago. I used Poll Everywhere a lot in my class.
Yeah.
So that's where we got some of the experience.
Yeah. Nice. I know for myself with this BYOD, I often use it actually, and my students, I have them use it with Twitter quite a bit. So I set up a Twitter account with my students so they have their devices in hand. And so if they have an immediate question, again, kind of that more of the feedback, because my students are quite shy or reluctant to share for fear of being kind of called out in front of their peers,
Mm-hmm.
given the student base that we have. So what I do is the students can DM me. They can send me a direct message to my teacher Twitter handle, and then that way I'll go ahead and I'll take their questions and put it out to the class and talk about it to the class. And then that way they kind of start to build their confidence level, seeing that when their students don't react to my suggestion or my ideas that I'm sharing, which are really theirs, it starts to kind of build their confidence level a bit more. So eventually they wind up actually speaking aloud and sharing their ideas in front of their peers in person, and I'm no longer the middleman or the
Right.
middlewoman.
Yes. Um,
Oh, go ahead.
yeah, my students are young for Twitter accounts, so that's why we
Yeah,
have things like today's meet and things like that. But they're not, and of course their names are still there on today's meet. But
yeah. Well, and so it's kind of a gray area for me with what I'm allowed to do and not allowed to do
right,
with my students. But given the fact that many of my students are their own guardians or living on their own, I get a little bit more wiggle room on that one.
yeah.
To put it out there to anyone that is watching this feed, if you have any questions for us, if you go to the bottom of the Hangout on air on YouTube, you can go ahead and you can ask any questions you have for Tammy or myself with regards to BYOD as well. So it's not just the two of us talking back and forth. Um, so another couple of different things that I kind of like with the BYOD is the fact that, again, I feel that I'm talking about myself because there's so few of us. Um, Low income. So low income with me, and I'm going to say low income with me in terms of my school. So
Uh-huh.
I don't have a lot of devices available to me. We have a computer lab that we share with the Adult Learning Center that's also in the building, which houses 20 computers. So if you get 20 computers in an open computer lab, that's really not enough to house the drop in adult learners as well as my students within a classroom setting. So by them bringing their own devices, some are getting into bringing laptops and a couple bring tablets, more so laptops or cell phones and smartphones. And then that way I get to do a little bit more on the spot with them. I also like the fact that if they have a question, I just say, I don't know about it.
Right, right.
I don't know the answer. And then I have them sit there and do and tag team and break them up and do a quick little web search and research online so they get the answers and I'm not just talking at them the whole
Yes.
time as well. And yeah, do you have any questions for me and how I use it or?
So besides Twitter and just going out and researching questions, what other ways, what are other sites or apps that you use?
Again, my students are older based than yours.
Right.
So one of the main ones that I live with on a daily basis in my third term when I teach PE, we have off-site PE class. So we're never on the school site because we don't have the gymnasium. We have physical classrooms, and that's really it. So what I do with them is I use the app that was formerly known as Remind 101.
I
Recently,
love that.
they just turned their name into Remind only. So just Remind, and then that way I get to send out a text to all my students because I know they all have cell phones. They don't
Hmm.
always answer them, but they get the text.
Right.
So I always send out a text on the day of and kind of saying where we're going, especially considering it's weather dependent because we're outdoors, so we have to kind of do a quick last minute game plan change if the weather turns foul and starts to rain on us because there's nothing better than a bunch of students miserable out in the pouring rain. So that's one of my other ones that I use. They also started using that one themselves to a couple of them started doing it for study groups, which I found quite interesting that they kind of went out and created their own little study groups and had one kind of person that they knew that was always in class collect different people's names, and they would start sharing in questions back and forth with that one because they weren't comfortable enough with sharing their private information and private telephone numbers.
Right.
But they were good with creating kind of like a study group captain for places and times to meet and that as well. So that just provided them another opportunity to communicate and share with each other.
Yeah, I use Remind 101. One thing I like about Remind 101 is the running record of the text you've sent out.
Yes, yeah. And why do you like that one? I know why I like it. Why do you like the running text that you send out?
Well, with my age group, then you have the parents who will come back and say, well, I didn't know this, or so I have proof of communication with my parents.
Yeah, it's yeah, that's exactly what I kind of use it as well for my students. I'm like, this is you, you've signed up, and this is the text I sent.
Yes.
Like oh, because everyone gets into the habit. I think even I know I do. You get into the habit of just kind of, if you're in the middle of doing something and a text or some notification comes through, you just automatically delete it, thinking you're going to go back later,
Right.
but often forget to go back later. So yeah, it's kind of a what we call in our program a CYA, cover your own fill in the blank.
Yes.
But yeah, so that's one of the reasons that I like Remind 101. Not too sure. I have my students, depending on what they're doing, some of them will bring the laptops in class. And so with that, I'll have some of them to kind of do, it fluctuates year to year and class to class. But I'll have students kind of be official note taker.
Uh-huh.
And then that way they kind of take a little bit of responsibility. And every once in a while, some of the students are more willing to lend out their devices during class time to share so others get the experience. So then that way they kind of also kind of get to take turns on sharing their notes and sharing things out and kind of being responsible for everyone for the day. So it's a kind of a meet in the middle BYOD because I'm not supplying the computers at all. But they're doing kind of computer-based stuff that they normally would in, a regular school, in a regular classroom that has a computer or two or more.
Right.
Yeah. So I kind of get to do a little bit of a hybrid with my groups.
Now, one of the apps, one of the sites that I use, and it comes as an app on your phone, and I found it quite useful this year having it on my phone. But it's Linoit, LINOIT.com,
Okay.
and it's a digital bulletin board. So you put Post-it notes. So I use it like as exit slips.
Oh, okay.
And open-ended questions and things like that. So and the students really enjoy.
And does that automatically communicate back to you then through an account, or
Yes, I have the
you
teacher
have to then
account.
send?
Yeah, I have the teacher account, and then when I use a QR code so to send my students to whatever bulletin, yeah, digital bulletin board that I want them to use, and so they scan the QR code and it brings up the bulletin board, and then they can put the post-it notes on it. And then on my teacher account, I can see the post-it notes as they're being posted.
Oh, cool. So it's kind of a live feed as well then.
Yes, yes.
Nice. That's good then. I mean, I can see a benefit to that one. And sorry, that was Linoit. Can you spell that one again for me?
LINOIT.com.
Ah, excellent. And are there any other apps? Like one of the other ones that I've found with the BYOD for my students, especially when they're in some of their self-paced courses, because we do have a couple of self-paces that they go through. It's available on tablets as well as most smartphones and Androids. I don't know if it's BlackBerry compatible yet, but flashcardlet.
Oh, I have
So
not heard of
it's
that.
it's it's a virtual flashcard. We all remember taking, or at least I always did. You would take the, recipe cards from mom's cupboard, and you'd start writing all of your notes on them to kind of study and prepare for tests. And so this is kind of a virtual one that they can carry with them wherever they go. So instead of having that big stack of recipe cards that you're trying to figure out what to do with, you get to go through and work along with those as well. And you get to check them off. Yeah, I'm
Uh,
confident. I don't need to go back to that term, or a little bit more of the no, I need to keep reviewing that one. And you get to randomly shuffle, or you can do them all in linear order to how you enter them as well. So it's a little bit more of a flexible thing, and it provides just another study tool for students. So every once in a while, I have a few students that as soon as they get a new definition or a new term or a new equation, they'll automatically enter it into the flashcardlet, and then they'll have that with them. So it's just another way of them taking their notes and being able to study from as well on the go.
oh, I like that.
And I'll share that one out as well. And we're not getting any questions. So again, if anyone wants any questions on BYOB or BYOB, you can tell where my mind is. Anyone with the BYOD, bring your own devices into your classrooms and best practices. Again, ask your questions down below on the YouTube link, and we will try to answer them to our best abilities. So we've kind of covered. Have you found that there's a little bit more resistance? I'm kind of curious about why your principal decided to forego the whole trial period with yourself and the other class and just go completely school-wide. Was it something that was kind of more of a district initiated, or was it just himself really wanting to go that way? And how does your principal support yourself and all the other teachers with the BYOD?
I
Or
the
do you know how he plans on supporting you?
I don't, but the pilot where the two teachers in the classroom was a district-wide initiative. There was so two teachers from each school in the district came together during the year of this past year and went through training,
Yeah.
and our trainer was actually from Forsyth County Schools in Georgia. They've been featured on I think an ABC news program or something. But so the lady that was over that in Georgia came and trained us one day of training, and so we went back, and I've been at that school for a long time where I am now, and there's always been an issue with bandwidth, and so one of the issues when each grade level at my school got 13 iPads per grade level, the issue was the iPads would lose connectivity because of having to share bandwidth.
Yeah.
And so one of the issues that I thought about once I finished with the training was, if our two classrooms didn't have separate routers with their own personal passwords, then once the students logged on to the network at the school building, we would have to make sure that they logged out before they left our classroom, or it would continue to steal bandwidth.
Yeah.
So he thought that through and thought, well, if he was going to have to put money into adding a better system to support the bandwidth, then he might as well, just go school wide
Okay,
with
so go big or
yeah.
home.
Yes.
Okay, well, no, because that's always a concern too, right? Especially with schools that are buildings that are a little bit older, is getting that bandwidth through there that can actually properly handle a large group and a large number on the router and on the Wi-Fi at the same time, right? Because you
Right.
do need to have the Wi-Fi for it, otherwise you're going to have an impossibility of having the students going through and plugging it all in person.
Right.
Okay, so yeah, we don't have Wi-Fi. We're not allowed Wi-Fi
Oh, wow.
in our schools, so we kind of have a little bit of a secret setup. But we're also close enough to Starbucks. If you get
Oh,
to a particular,
awesome.
if you get to a particular corner in a couple of our classrooms, you can get the Starbucks Wi-Fi from across the parking lot. So I know a few of our students do that as well. I know I do when it's not always available to me. But excellent. Is there anything else you want to go ahead and share there, Tammy? Otherwise, I don't know if I have anything else, so we might want to just kind of wrap it up and see what else we can find out there for
Okay,
EdCamp
sounds
Home.
good. Okay.
Yeah, do you have anything you want to share at all, or no?
No, I think I'm done.
Awesome. Thanks for your time there, Tammy.
Thank
And
you.
for those of you watching, hopefully Tammy and I were able to provide you some sort of ideas on it. A couple of the apps that we were going for was, I was going to recommend the flashcardlet, and then Tammy, and you were recommending
The Linoit.
Linoit. And I think we both kind of thought a little bit highly of Socrative as well for one
Yes.
of the other possibilities, right?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you very much for your time, Tammy, and thank you to everyone for watching us here with the BYOD Best Practices for EdCamp 3.0 in Session 2. Have a good night, everyone. Bye, Tammy.
Bye.